Hello everyone, it is Steve Lookner. This is Agenda Free TV 2 or Agenda Free TV or Agenda Free TV 1 depending on which platform you're watching on. We are here with the live news wrap. It's been called Live News Roundup. We're calling it Live News Wrap today. I think it's going to end up being called Live News Roundup in the future, but you know the basic deal with it. We're talking about some different news stories and going to be taking your comments on the air, your comments. So give me a shout. Let me know what you think about the stories that we are talking about. And thanks to all of our moderators who are in our chat. And hang on a second. We have some of the Agenda Free TV moderators I need to actually activate on this channel as well. I just got another one there, I think. Okay. Let's see here. Did I take care of all that? I think we're good. All right, let's start. Let's start by talking about. I saw this story before. I wanted to talk about this. Evacuations ordered as train derails near Custer in Washington State. There was a train derailment that involved some crude oil and a fire, and an evacuation. I think around like a half mile around where the train derailed. Bellingham Herald. A train has derailed in the Custer area, and residents and visitors within a half mile need to evacuate. This happened about 3 hours ago, 2.5 hours ago. Custer. It is a Bnsf train and track. The train derailed near the 7500 block of Portal Way. We can look that up. The sheriff's office says we are working to evacuate half-mile radius from the site of the derailment. Train cars are on fire. This was about an hour ago. Let's look up where this was. 7500 Portal Way. There's Portal Way. Okay. This is in Custer, Washington, which is sort of near the border. It's right near the border. It's northwestern Washington, not far from Vancouver, north of Seattle. So if we do this, this is where it happened, in this area. Where's the train tracks? There's the train tracks. Hang on. Can I see the train tracks? There's the train tracks. It's right around here. There it is. There's the train tracks. This is right where it happened. And then in terms of what's near there, there is some buildings, not many houses it looks like. Actually, some houses over here. I bet all this is evacuated. Here. And then the I-5 is here. But it happened right around here. So they say, let me go back here. We are working to evacuate a half-mile radius. Train cars are on fire. I-5 is closed in both directions. Initial reports show that 325 tank cars derailed, and there is a fire near the end of the train. There's a picture of the fire from the Bellingham Herald. The cause is under investigation. Ooh, there's another picture from Bellingham Herald. See if they've posted anything more on the sheriff's feed. Oh, here it is. Look, they just posted something. Well, Bnsf Railway has confirmed a train carrying crude oil derailed in Custer, Washington around 11:40 a.m. Initial reports indicate that between 3 to 5 tank cars derailed, and there are reports of a fire towards the end of the train. BNSF is working with local authorities to assess and mitigate the situation. The cause of the accident is under investigation. Our first priority is dealing with any safety issues. We will provide any details as they become available. That's their statement from BNSF Railway. No injuries that I've heard of. I read one article that said there had been no injuries reported, so I haven't heard of any injuries. Cheryl's wondering if the train was heading into Vancouver. Ooh, I wonder if anybody posted on Snap Maps about that. Oh, look, here's a video from Brandy. Here's some shots from Brandy Cruz. I think she posted a video too. Video from scene of train derailment near Custer, courtesy Anthony Neer, Q13 Fox. Ooh, picture from scene of train derailment near Custer, Washington. Brandy Copland says her kids were at a play date when it happened. Kids' pets evacuated the area. Okay. She also says, you'll notice the stretch of railway where this happened is a straight shot. That was not the case with the 2017 DuPont Washington Amtrak derailment. Best I can tell, there's only one railroad crossing between these 2 points about at the midway. So I'm not sure, we don't know why this happened. Marie Whitmore says, very happy, no injuries, but pray that fire gets put out quickly. I wonder if there's anything on Snap Maps about this. Let's look. Let's look, shall we? It's going to be up like near the... I don't even know if there is. Somewhere around here. Is Custer even on the... It's got to be here because it's near the 5. Blaine. Here? No! none of that's it. I was looking up here to see if I could find any videos on Snap Maps, but I'm not seeing anything. I tried. So if I hear more about that, I'll let you know. That's what I know about that. Lucky St. Louis says if it's spilling oil, they're going to need a hazmat crew. I haven't even heard about whether it's spilling oil and how much. Seattle Times might have something. Here, look. Train carrying crude oil derails near Custer, Whatcom County. Hang on a second here. Seattle Times. Is that upside down? I can't even tell. Looks like this is upside down. A train carrying crude oil derailed near Custer. Everyone within a half mile was told to evacuate. Unknown reasons why. Between 3 and 5 cars fully derailed and caught fire. Once the department fully extinguishes the fire, the public is advised to wait until the smoke plume disappears to ensure the area is safe again. There are no reported injuries. A hazmat team is on the scene to manage the toxic impacts of the crude oil. Oh, thank you, Sonic, for your support. Thank you, Sonic. I appreciate that. Starfire 3, we do not know why it derailed. No idea. Lucky says maybe in that picture it was laying on its side. This one here. Yeah, it looks like this is it's upside down or sideways, because that writing is upside down. Okay. So again, I'll keep an eye on it. If I hear anything big, I will let you know. C. Swigum says, that's not good, but better than if there was an oil pipeline spill. I agree with you there. I agree with you there. I do not know where that train was going to or from. Hang on 1 second here. Hang on. Helen Cat says, many people are posting that this was an act of domestic terrorism. I don't know if this is true. I've heard no reporting that the train derailment was an act of domestic terrorism. I don't know what happened, but I haven't heard that reported at all. So again, I'm sure it'll be investigated. I'm positive it'll be investigated. But I'll let you know if I hear anything. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to another story. I want to talk about this next. Hey, thanks TWC for your support. Thank you, TWC. I appreciate TWC 60. Thank you, TWC 60. It's very kind of you. I just saw, right when I was coming on the air, Israel's having another election. Another one. We've covered so many Israel elections. Here, let's see. I saw it. Axios was reporting on it. Israel's power-sharing government collapsed today, only 7 months after it was formed, putting Israel on course for its 4th elections in 2 years. 4 elections in 2 years. Axios says, the government was formed by 2 rivals, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Minister of Defense Benny Gantz, to end a political stalemate, but it was totally dysfunctional. Its collapse means Gantz will not rotate in as Prime Minister next November, as the two had agreed in their coalition deal. Another election. The elections will take place on March 23rd. The government collapse comes amid a dramatic deterioration in Benny Gantz's political standing and a decline in Netanyahu's favorability. It also follows the establishment of a new right-wing party headed by Netanyahu critic Gideon Sa'ar, which could change Israel's political map. Sa'ar is the political star of the moment. He will try to establish himself as the only alternative to Netanyahu in hopes of rallying a broad swath of voters who want to see Netanyahu removed from office. So Netanyahu will be running again. They do it by party there. In Israel, you vote by party. And the party with the most seats, the party's leader gets to be prime minister. But 4 elections in 2 years. Louise, our viewer, says, 1 election in 4 years was bad enough. I don't know how they bear it. By the way, our viewer Denise Horton says, train derailments sadly are pretty common. Ice is the main cause here in British Columbia wintertime. Dave NW says, weird parliamentary system there. Well, it is, first of all, it's proportional. I remember it's proportional representation. So like your party can win 10% of if your party gets like 10% of the overall votes, even if your party doesn't win in any part of the country, you will get seats in the government. Hey, thanks, Dr. Heaton, for the super hearts. Thank you. Lucky St. Louis says, why so many elections? Well, what happens is usually what happens is no party wins a majority of seats in the parliament. So what will happen is a party will have to like have an alliance with other parties, right? If you don't have enough to have a majority of seats in the parliament there, you got to find people to work with. And so ultimately what it comes down to is if no party gets a majority and no party can form an alliance with other parties to get a majority, then they have to have, then the government can't function because nobody can get any legislation passed. So in terms of why they have so many elections, I mean, I guess an answer would be that it's a divided country in terms of political loyalties, and no one can muster enough support to keep running the government. I mean, that's basically what it is that there was this coalition that had agreed to work with each other, and that coalition is no longer working with each other, so nobody has a majority. The government was formed by two rivals and their parties, but now they're not working with each other. Nancy says, is that how it is in the U.S.? In the U.S., no. In the U.S., it's very different. So in the U.S., what happens is, like in the House of Representatives in the U.S., for example, there's members. Each area of the country has a representative in the House of Representatives. And when you have an election to the House of Representatives, and the same with the Senate, whoever wins the election gets the seat. So if you, in the U.S., to get a seat in Congress, you have to win an election. You have to get the most votes in a particular geographic area, right? If you're going to be a senator or a member of the House of Representatives, you have to get the most votes in a certain geographic area. Otherwise, you don't get a seat. There's one representative, like in the House of Representatives, there's one representative for each area, each geographic area in the country. And then Senate, there's two for each state. But you have to win the election. That's not the way it is in Israel. In Israel, you could win 10% in each part of the country. So in no part of the country, in no geographic area, would you have won an election. You'd never be like the top candidate. You could have, if you won 10% in every geographic area, in every city in Israel, in every county or whatever in Israel, you wouldn't win any of the local elections, but you would still get, your party would get seats. You run by party, and your party, if your party wins 10% of the votes in the country, you roughly speaking get 10% of the seats. So you can win seats in the parliament, in the legislature in Israel, even if your party doesn't win any of the local elections. That's not the way it is in the U.S. In the U.S., you have to win an election in a geographic area to get a seat in the national government. So it's different. Then there's people argue there's pluses and minuses to those. But a kind of a cool thing about it is that there might be a party that has a fair degree of support, but they can't win any local elections, but there's still, there could be 10-20% of the people in the country who support them. So, this way they get some seats, whereas in the U.S. they might not. Peaks, but I'm not prepared to discuss the positives and negatives of this. But it's different that way. It allows for smaller parties to get seats in the legislature. Peaks and Pokes thinks winner-takes-all systems are unfair. You know, if that happened in the U.S., if the U.S. system was like that, you'd probably have more parties, right? Because the only way to win seats in the U.S. right now is if you actually win an election in a certain geographic area. But there might be parties that could win 15% everywhere, but would never win a local election. But then they would get seats in Congress. So there's way more parties with seats in the legislature in Israel than there is in the U.S. Marie thinks it's more better than our two-party system since there's more types of government or parties represented. Hey, Love Ninja says, is he not streaming on YouTube anymore? I keep getting this question. On YouTube, there are 2 channels. There's 2 channels on YouTube. This is Agenda Free TV 2. This is Agenda Free TV 2 on YouTube. It is on YouTube. There's 2 channels on YouTube. See Agenda Free TV 2. So we sometimes do some broadcasts on here on YouTube. So if you do like Agenda Free TV on YouTube, I would highly recommend you subscribe to Agenda Free TV 2. On the other platforms, it's just 1 channel. On YouTube, it's 2 channels. So now you know. We may start doing these on Agenda Free TV 1. I haven't decided yet. Probably tried at some point. You can write to me, by the way, at Lookner on Twitter. Oh, Jonah Katz sent me this. Thank you, Jonah. I didn't see this. This just came out right now. UK government officials meeting tomorrow to decide which other parts of England will go on lockdown. Let's get an update on this. So, you know, we've talked about this, how London and a bunch of southeast England is in like tier 4 highest level lockdown because there's this new strain of the virus that's especially prominent, that's mostly in the UK. And the UK officials and scientists believe that it's more, it transmits more easily than previous strains of the virus. So they're really concerned about this strain spreading in the UK. So let me see if I can get an update on this here. Hang on. Hang on. Yeah, here is right here. Ooh, look, we got this. ITV. Robert Peston, there is a COVID operations committee meeting tomorrow, and ministers tell me they expect decisions to be taken on which other areas of England will go into Tier 4, which is the highest level of restrictions, in just a few days. In Tier 4, you're not allowed to have anyone else over your house. No guests inside from another household, for example. Then they write this. This is ITV. Tougher restrictions are now inevitable as UK daily cases reach record high. Okay. Then they say, what is this? Why does the article say this, though? 2 people warned about blah, blah, blah. What does that mean? This is weird. This is like not a news article. Or it's like an opinion. It's a strange... It looks like a news story, but it looks like an opinion piece when you actually read it. This is kind of confusing. All right, I don't really know what the deal with that story is. They say the UK recorded its highest daily increase in cases since the start of the pandemic on Tuesday. Let's check also. Hey, thanks, N. Lee. N. Lee, I really appreciate your support. Thank you, N. Lee. That's very kind of you. Thank you. Much appreciated. Here it is. I got it. Tier 4 to be widened on Boxing Day as virus mutation bleeds. Telegraph. Government sources have also warned there's a high chance of a full national lockdown in the new year. How about that? Now, there's already a lot of restrictions in the UK in various places. So it's not like they have no restrictions. But it's different areas in the UK have different restrictions. Ooh, prevalence of new variant. Why is there a circle up here? A swath of areas hit by surging virus rates are likely to be placed to the most restrictive Tier 4 restrictions from Boxing Day, ministers will announce on Wednesday. Now, Wednesday's tomorrow. Boxing Day, I know nothing about this. Let's look up Boxing Day. Boxing Day, holiday celebrated the day after Christmas Day, dust being the second day of Christmas, the day after, blah, 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 blah. No, primarily known as a shopping holiday. It is on December 26th. It's on December 26th. Okay. Oh, thank you, by the way, Weston. Thank you, Weston Jossie, for your support. Weston likes the AFTV2 streams. So, Weston, do you not think we should do the roundup on Agenda Free TV? This is the question. The question is, do we start doing the news wrap or the news roundup, whatever I'm calling it? Do we start doing it at all on Agenda Free TV? Weston, I think, maybe thinks we should keep it on Agenda Free TV too. I mean, ultimately, I should probably try it on Agenda Free TV and then see how it feels. I don't know. I've heard some different opinions on it. Misha says, I remember us asking what Boxing Day was last year. Where has the year gone? Sarah thinks we shouldn't do it on Agenda Free TV. Well, anyways, let's read some more about this. This is about new restrictions. Sorry, Brenda Bradley likes on Agenda Free TV too. Okay, a swath of areas. Oh, okay. Weston, yeah, all right. Weston says whatever makes you happy. I just love the format. Okay, that's okay. I just want to be clear what you were saying. Thank you, Weston. I appreciate that. Look, a swath of areas hit by surging corona rates are likely to be placed into Tier 4 restrictions from Boxing Day. That means December 26th. So new areas in the UK are going to be placed into the toughest restrictions designation. That's from the Telegraph. Ministers are expected to sign off plans for tougher measures for many areas at a meeting as concern grows about the virus mutation spreading from the southeast. That's the problem. They're worried about this new variant of the virus, which we did a stream on, that they believe is significantly spreads faster. There's no evidence it's more deadly. There's no evidence it gets people sicker or gets more people sick. There's no evidence that the vaccine can't handle it, but there's significant evidence suggesting that it spreads faster. Government sources have warned there is a high chance of a full national lockdown in the new year. Look at this. Full national lockdown in the new year. I have to post this. I gotta post that. That seems like that seems important news. I'm posting that. I'm just posting this. How are the quotes in this article? Oh, I know what I have to do. I have to do it this way. Single quotes here to make this clear. Is it fun watching me post a tweet? UK government sources have warned that there is a high chance of a full national lockdown in the new year, from The Telegraph. Okay, that's what I wanted to say. That's what I wanted to post. Did it work? There you go. Let's go back to The Telegraph. Okay, so they're saying, The Telegraph is reporting that in the UK, they're going to have, tomorrow in the UK, they're going to announce more areas coming under this highest tier 4 restrictions. I know tier 4, like you're literally not allowed to have anybody else over the house except people who live there, in addition to other things as well. Let's see if I can find a description of that. What is tier 4 UK? What are the rules for tier 4 in England? Tier 4, stay at home. Where's the rules? If you live in tier 4, you must not leave or be outside your home or garden except where you have a reasonable excuse. Okay? Also, in general, in tier 4, you must not meet socially or carry out any activities with another person. However, you can exercise or meet in a public outdoor place with people you live with, your support bubble, or as part of a childcare program, or with one other person. Then they define what a bubble is. You must not leave your tier 4 area other than for legally permitted reasons, like work, blah, 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 blah. In tier 4, non-essential retail is all closed. Non-essential retail is closed. All indoor and outdoor dining, pubs, bars closed. Leisure and sports facilities, entertainment venues closed. I mean, there's a lot of detail here, but okay. So that's tier 4. I'm just reading this from the UK government. Okay, areas that, and they have a map here, areas that could be pushed into tier 4 by mutant variant. Percent prevalence of new variant. Okay. Today, Britain recorded 691 deaths, the second highest daily toll since last May, and a jump of a fifth in 1 week, while daily cases reached a record 36,804. Under the Boxing Day, December 26 measures, the worst hit places will be plunged into Tier 4, a stay-home measure akin to lockdown that was introduced in London and much of the southeast earlier this week. Oops, sorry. Hang on a second. And many areas in the lower tiers could be moved to Tier 3, forcing the closure of all pubs, restaurants, and non-essential shops. That's even in Tier 3. Areas on the edges of the current tiers are particularly vulnerable. This is very important. Health officials are warning that the new variant of the virus is bleeding across boundaries, not surprisingly. Health officials are concerned that the exodus of large numbers of people from Tier 4 areas into these other areas has fueled the spread. I assume for like the holidays? Sources in the government said there was now a high chance that the UK would be placed into a third national lockdown after Christmas. One said the expectation now is we can get through Christmas, but after that, the chances of a full lockdown in the new year look pretty high. One source said if the new variant continues to bleed across the country, and we see more cases of it in the north, then there isn't much of a case for keeping anyone out of Tier 4 so it amounts to a national lockdown, whether it is called it or not. No decision has been taken, said this source, but the numbers look awful. Everything is going the wrong way, and the numbers are worse than those that triggered the December lockdown. I don't know. That might be for England. They might be talking about England. When they say national, I don't know if they mean England or the UK. Because like Wales and Scotland are also in the UK. And Northern Ireland, too. In Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon said a full lockdown may be imposed due to concern about the new variant. Health chiefs, the data show hotspots, blah, 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 blah. Genetic data mapping the spread of the new strain shows that it has emerged in areas hundreds of miles apart. In this area, like in Eastbourne and Lewes, rates have more than tripled in a week. They have doubled in this area. And in each area, at least 20% of the cases involve the new mutation. The director of public health for Cumbria said it's pretty clear that while it is in the southeast of England that it's having the worst of it right now, this new variant is already present in most parts of the country. So, I'm not sure when that announcement will be tomorrow, but the Telegraph is reporting new parts of the UK will be put into the most strict Tier 4 restrictions tier tomorrow because of concerns over this new variant. I'm going to take some more comments from you guys. Hey, by the way, thank you, Paula Garlock. That's very kind of you, Paula. Paula, I appreciate it. Paula's in Niagara Falls. Thank you, Paula. Happy holidays. And thanks for thanking the mods, Paula. Thank you. Also, Chris Lacey. Hey, Chris, thanks for your support, Chris Lacey. Thank you. Thanks also for the Super Hearts. Misha, Lee Garside, and Daniel Heaton. Yeah, Alibaba is, I think, talking about the new variant affecting children. I read some stuff about that last night. I actually want to talk about it. There's concerns that this new variant it's in other countries as well, but it's the most of the detected cases so far have been in the UK. There's also a new variant in South Africa as well. But this new strain that's centered in the UK, that a lot of people in the UK have it. There's concern that this new strain, it's easier for children to get it. That's a big concern about this new strain, is that it's easier for children to get it. Because it's been seen in previous strains, the general thinking was it's harder for kids to get it than older people. But that might be changing with the new strain. That's a big concern. We'll talk about that in a second. Hey, thanks, by the way, Star Fowler and Laverne Thompson for the Facebook stars. Thank you, Laverne and Star Fowler. That's very kind of you. Laverne, 34-week streak. Oh, my gosh. Thank you, Laverne. That's incredible. I appreciate it. Victoria Neeson, our viewer, thinks there's a large chance this variant can affect children more. Well, I have some reporting on that I'm going to show you. Now, another big question, of course, is how much does it start getting detected in other countries? Kate St. Aubin says, remember back in January when word got out they were locking down Wuhan? The roads were jammed with people leaving. Is that true in Wuhan? I know it happened like well, there's other countries where they've had things happen. I don't remember it happening in Wuhan. Maybe it did. Maybe it did. I don't remember the specifics. I do remember, like in China, there being holidays and people traveling. But there have been cases where like areas are going to be locked down and then people try to get out, and that happened. There were a lot of people taking the train out of London a couple days ago before midnight when the lockdown came into effect. Kate, you might be right about Wuhan. I just can't remember that far back. Now, and also that variant, I guess they have evidence that it was in the UK since September. So, at this point, if it's been there since September, it's not like people haven't been traveling around the UK. So it very well might. There are a number. You can find a number of health experts who say they think at this point that the travel restrictions don't really help things because the variant's been out there for a while. Even travel restrictions to different countries. So this is an article. This is just one article. It says, travel bans can't contain the new COVID strain. Let's see what this says. This is from Quartz. This is by Tim McDonnell. He says, new bans are unlikely to make a meaningful dent in the transmission of the new strain. The bans recall the early days of the pandemic when the U.S. and many other countries implemented travel bans on China and other regions where the virus first appeared. Back then, a consensus quickly formed among epidemiologists that such bans could modestly slow the spread of the virus, but couldn't be considered a substitute for masking, distancing, testing, and other measures. Okay. A December study in The Lancet supported this conclusion. Okay. A senior scholar at the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security, Amesh Adalja, told Quartz the early travel bans seemed like a convenient tool to politicians, but ended up perpetuating a false sense of security and weren't worth the pandemonium they caused. The same is likely true of bans targeting the new variant, he said. The same pattern is being repeated and is likely to be just as ineffective, he said. I don't think there's any benefit to these bans, and the damage they do will be significant. In any case, the new variant, the new strain, has almost certainly spread to other countries, he said. In addition to the UK, and there's a new one in South Africa, It's been detected in Australia and several European countries. In South Africa, I don't know if they have the new UK strain. They have a different UK strain. I wish that I would like this article a little more to talk about the why of that it's believed that these experts believe that it doesn't really help matters. I'm assuming it's the kind of thing where they say, well, it's already in the other country. There's not. I'd like more detail in that article. That article could have done a better job of arguing its point. Anyways, if I find any more articles on that topic, I'll let you know. Here's an article here. Fauci says he would advise against additional restrictions on UK travel. Well, this might be for the US. There's already a bunch of restrictions on UK travel to the US. I don't think this is about like other countries. By the way, France has agreed to ease virus travel ban with the UK. France will start letting traffic from this is from BBC. France will start letting traffic from the UK back in from Wednesday after the nations reached agreement over their shared border. Freight drivers and some passengers, including EU citizens, will be among those allowed to return if they have a recent negative test for the virus. You will have to have a negative test result less than 72 hours before departure. Shrubby says too little, too late. Yeah, so one thing about this new strain is, we talked about this when we covered the new strain a couple days ago, is not many countries have good or even any detecting capacity when it comes to trying to being able to detect what specific strains of the virus are there. So the UK is one of the best countries with their detection capability, but it's very possible that it's also in many other countries where they just don't have the detection capability and they haven't detected this new strain there. And again, there's evidence it's been in the UK since September. So, and a number, they've found, I think, 9 cases in Denmark. There's been cases detected in Australia and in other places, I believe, too. So there's a question of it's possible it's in a lot more places already. We'll talk about the kids thing in a second. Hail in Place says they believe the variant was found first in the UK since UK does half of the world's in-depth sequencing of the virus. Give me a shout. Let me know your thoughts at Lookner on Twitter. Emma Sykes says, yes, first found new strain in September. Here, look. The Herald. The Herald. Scotland. WHO confirms new strain of virus in southeast England was identified in September. So it's been there for a while. Misha says, I have a strange feeling we'll be in the same position in January 17th, 21st, as we were on January 17th of this year. Unfortunately. June Cruz says, in Wuhan, they put bars in front of the doors so people could not get out of homes and apartments. Lucky says, if I had to guess, it's probably over here in the U.S. too. You can reach me at Lookner on Twitter. Oh yeah, this came out today. Chuck sent me this. AFP, Brussels recommends EU members lift UK travel bans. Here. EU urges countries to lift UK travel bans. BBC. The EU's executive branch, the European Commission, has called on member states to lift travel bans imposed against the UK amid fears of a new COVID strain. Does it explain why? The Commission recommended its members allow people to travel to their country of residence, providing they take a test, a COVID test, or self-isolate. But it said non-essential travel should be discouraged. More than 50 covered countries around the world have suspended flights from the UK. The U.S. already has restrictions in place that prevent most non-U.S. citizens who've been in the UK and some other countries for the last 14 days from entering. Okay, let's see here. Shaggy says, Britain could have saved mankind, but they just couldn't stay out of the pubs for a couple weeks. Maddie Mag says, the longer we let this virus continue to spread uncontrolled, the higher the chance of a mutation that will have more severe side effects. Oh, hold on a second here. Hang on. Hey, I just want to say a quick thanks to our moderators. Thank you to our moderators. Nancy Mattis is there, Sarah55, Mark Helton, Jackie B. They're all on YouTube. Really appreciate all the moderators. They're all volunteers. Thank you also to Misha and Texas Legends Brian. They're in our Periscope chat moderating there. Thank you. Roxanne Betke is moderating in our Facebook chat. Thank you. And Daily Disclosure in our Twitch chat. Thanks for moderating. I want to talk about this possible effect on children. Possible greater effect on children of this new or possible. Oh, hold on a second here. Oh, hold on. Here's an update about the train derailment. Look, train derailment update. Update: 7 railway cars derailed from a northbound Bnsf train around 11:40 a.m. today in the 7500 block of Portal Way, Custer. Fire started in 2 of the derailed cars. The fire is under control. So this is an update about the train derailment. 3/4 mile evacuation zone was established and will remain in effect. This is in Custer, Washington. Train carrying crude oil derailed. Continue to avoid the area. That's in Custer, Washington, near the northern border with Canada. We were talking about that earlier. Well, hold on a second here. Hey, thanks so much, by the way, Lars Anderson from Sweden. Thanks for your support, Lars. I really appreciate it. Yeah, thanks everybody who has donated, because your support is what allows me to do my news channels. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. I couldn't do it without you. So thanks for all your support. If you do want to donate to the channel, you can go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv. Rob the Slot says, why not go to level 4 in the UK now, not after Boxing Day money perhaps? So I don't know, what the deal is with that. We're hearing that there's going to be new restrictions in the UK as to why they wait. I mean, maybe it's just to give people preparation time, like to not say, okay, starting in an hour, everything has to shut down. So I don't know if there's, generally speaking, there might be reasons to not announce, to give some time between the announcement of new restrictions and the implementation of them. All right, let's talk about this. This is what I want to talk about. This was really important. I read this last night. Hang on. So this is from the Telegraph, and what it talks about is there's been a number of stories about this in the last day or so. There are concerns that this new strain, which there's been a lot of cases of it in the UK, and it's believed there's evidence that this new strain transmits faster, more generally, transmits easier between people. But there's also concerns that it's easier for kids to get it than previous strains. There's been this, one of the big arguments for keeping schools open is that kids are less likely to get it and spread it. So, if it turns out that this strain is easier for kids to get and spread, that might affect, whether decisions on whether schools should be kept open. Government scientists concerned that children may be fueling fresh surge of virus across the country. January school closures considered as fears grow over new COVID strain spread among children. Now, also, if you remember when we talked about the new strain in South Africa, which is a different strain than the new UK strain, but they bear some similarities. I've seen reporting that says there's similar new strains. In South Africa, the Minister of Health said they had anecdotal evidence that young, healthy people in South Africa who get this new strain are more likely to get really sick than young, healthy people who got the previous strains. So the South African health minister said a few days ago that there's evidence suggesting that the new strain in South Africa gets young, healthy people sicker than the previous strains did. Now, they haven't researched that, though. That's just anecdotal evidence. That's evidence coming like, somebody says, hey, in my clinic this happened, in my clinic this happened. That's not like a scientific study. But it's interesting that we're hearing these concerns about both of these new strains, South Africa and UK, that they could be, cause children to get sicker or be easier to catch for children or some combination of this. Ministers are considering keeping schools closed for all of January in the UK amid fears that the new strain is spreading faster among children, the Telegraph understands. That's concerning. Government scientists said they were concerned that children may be fueling a new surge of the virus across the country, as cases rose by 55% in a single week. Teaching unions have written to Boris Johnson demanding he delays the reopening of schools next term amid growing evidence that the mutant variant infects children more effectively. Wow. Now, that hasn't been proven yet. This needs to be studied. But that's very concerning. It came as scientists from the NervTag Government Advisory Group raised concerns that the new variant of the virus may spread far more effectively in children than the original strain. They said that might explain why the rate of the virus continued to increase in some areas during the second lockdown when schools were still open but more adults stayed at home. I just started reading these reports yesterday. Concerns that the new variant spread faster in children were raised by Professor Neil Ferguson, the Imperial College London epidemiologist who sits on NervTag. Professor Ferguson said data so far suggested the new variant has a higher propensity to infect children, with statistically significantly higher rates found among under 15s compared with those of the standard virus. Fellow NervTag Advisory Board member Professor Wendy Barclay said some of the changes seen in mutations had caused alarm bells because they appear to make it easier for the viruses to spread. These could explain why the virus is spreading more easily among children, she said, with the standard virus having relied on receptors which were more easily found in adults. Professor Barclay added that the ease of transmission in children might explain surging rates of the virus across the country. Professor Ferguson said the hypothesis that it spreads easier among children might explain a significant proportion, maybe even the majority of the transmission increase, which has since been seen. I mean, this is really concerning. Again, it hasn't been proven yet. One government source says they're looking at staggering schools for longer, perhaps for all of January. A Whitehall source said, meaning a government source said, there is urgent work going on trying to establish how much more transmissible this new strain may be in children. It's really concerning. C. Clark says children always carried it, just not affected as much. Well, this article has UK scientists saying they think it actually, with the new strain, there's evidence that it's actually easier for kids to get it. In South Africa, the health minister in South Africa was saying that in their new strain, there's evidence that it might be more harmful to children. That's two different things, whether it's easier for children to get, whether a strain is easier for children to get, or whether a strain is more harmful to the kids who get it. That's two different things. Now, it might be the case that the new strain in the UK is no more harmful for children on average, but more of them get it. But a problem with, even if the new strain isn't more harmful for children, if it's easier for them to get and spread, then it could lead to more other high-risk groups getting it. But this, to me, it's a very very concerning article. And also, again, if it were to turn out that the new strain is significantly easier for kids to get and to spread, that could really affect, whether schools stay open or not. Because a big argument for keeping schools open is that kids are less likely to spread it. Now, as Maria Brouillard says, she points out that kids can get sick and can spread to others. So no one's saying that they can't get sick and can't spread to others. It's the thing is, though, kids are less likely to get sick than other groups of people. And there's evidence suggesting, there has been evidence, we've talked about it on the air, there has been evidence that with the previous strains of the virus, it was a lot harder for kids to spread it. Doesn't mean they can't. So, with opening schools or anything else, it's all about cost benefit. What's the cost? What's the benefit? There's a number of people who say, well, with schools, yes, if you keep them open, you might have some more cases and people getting sick than you didn't. But there's a huge benefit to opening the schools. Kids' education, parents can go to work, do work where they can, all those kind of things. So it's a cost-benefit thing. If it turns out that with the new strain, it's easier for kids to get it and spread it, that could change the cost-benefit analysis. Misha says, can't imagine having young kids in a full-time job right now. Heart goes out to those parents. So I'm very interested in seeing what the data on this turns out to be. Tony Nagy says, please keep the faith, folks. Stay strong. We will get through this. Araxia says Sage has asked the UK Vaccines Authority to start writing up a plan for teenage immunization program. I haven't seen that. I know in the US, the Pfizer vaccine is approved for ages 16 and above, and I think the Moderna is 18 and above. Here's the article. This is from The Sun. I don't know if this is true. New strain, secondary school pupils could receive vaccine as government fears kids fueling spread of mutant virus. This is from yesterday in The Sun. Secondary school pupils could receive the COVID vaccine following growing concerns that teens are fueling the spread of the mutated virus. Government scientists are drawing up plans to get the teenage pupils vaccinated. It's been suggested that the surge in virus cases was partly driven by secondary schools remaining open during the 4-week lockdown in November. Now, the thing is, if they start giving it to secondary school students and other people won't get it, there's a limited number of vaccine doses available. Neil Ferguson told BBC Radio 4 there is a hint from the data that this new variant, may infect children slightly more effectively than the previous variant, so it's very difficult to prove causality. ASDFDS says, are children getting sicker or are they just an effective vehicle? We don't know right now. This needs to be researched. It's not clear if either new strain in UK or South Africa is easier for kids to get, or whether it makes kids sicker. We do not know. Give me a shout if you have comments at Lookner on Twitter. Bobby Zich says, can the old COVID tests detect the new strains? I haven't heard that they can't. So I'm assuming if there's some big problem with this, we'll hear this. I haven't heard that they can't. Tommy Westland said a third mutation was found in Denmark and also found in Romania. Now, there are mutations all the time. Viruses mutate all the time. So it's not, there's been all kinds of mutations of this virus since it was discovered. The big thing, though, is whether a mutation changes the behavior of the virus significantly. The new strains in the UK and South Africa seem like maybe they've changed enough and in the right ways to affect how it affects people significantly. But there's lots of strains from the virus floating around. That's normal. Most of the changes to the virus don't really affect how it operates with people. H. Cobb says, is the UK strain similar to the South African one? I remember reading an article saying they were similar, but it was not really detailed. So I don't have the specifics on that. All right, if you have comments, questions, give me a shout on Twitter at Lookner. Victoria Neeson says that the virus mutating is very normal and it's what RNA viruses do. By the way, I wanted to talk about this for a second. I saw this earlier. I saw this headline earlier, having read the article. LA counties, Los Angeles counties spiking COVID hospitalizations are literally heading off the charts. This is from today. The pace of new hospitalizations for the virus is spiking so quickly in Los Angeles County that it is now literally off the charts. Well, it depends on what your on how you, that would just depend on how big your y-axis is on the chart, whether it's off the chart. There's no official chart height, but it has forced officials to redraw the graphics used to illustrate the grim predictions for what's ahead. In October, fewer than 150 patients infected with the virus were being admitted daily into hospitals. Now it is roughly 700 a day. If disease transmission behavior does not change, a projection issued by the County Department of Health Services says LA County could be headed to between 700 and 1,400 new hospitalized patients a day by New Year's Eve. Number of new cases. This just shows you how the previous graphs couldn't show how much the hospitalizations were projected to go up. The number of people in LA County's hospitals with COVID was nearly 5,900 as of Sunday, more than double the summer peak during the second wave of the pandemic. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty crazy. This is California. This is their hospitalizations. Light blue is total hospitalizations. I mean, that's now. This was earlier this year. Look at now. That's from the LA Times. Hey, thanks, by the way, to Rid Comics. Rid Comics says, try and have a safe Christmas, mates. This virus may be around for a while, but let's hope it ends soon. Thank you, Rid Comics, for your support. I really appreciate that. And thank you so much, 1981 MLJL83. 1981 MLJL83. Thank you for your support. Much appreciated. Give me a shout at Lookner on Twitter. Hang on. Laverne Thompson says, when was this new strain first detected in the UK? I've read September. Laverne says, why are they just now speaking out about this new strain in the UK? So, Laverne, my guess is that what happened is it's not a big deal to just detect a new strain of the virus. What the big deal is, what's happened with the cases taking off in the UK. They've had the most cases today that they've ever had, and they've really taken off in recent weeks. So that's the cases graph. I believe when this is like after they had a lockdown like in October, November. But what happens is, so the cases really start going up, and then they look into it, and then they find that in a certain parts of the country, like London and Southeast England, a lot of these cases over the last few weeks are the new strain. So my understanding is it's the fact that you're seeing these big increases in people testing positive, and also a lot of the new positives there's a greater and greater percentage of the new positives that are this new strain. And then they start wondering, well, does that mean the new strain is really driving the increased numbers of cases? Pinochet says, is it possible this could mutate into a slightly more lethal version alongside with increased infectivity, or would it mutate to become less and less harmful? So I don't know the specifics, but various mutations are possible. It certainly could, in theory, mutate to become more harmful. Most of the mutations don't really have a significant effect. This strain, we talked about this a couple of days ago, but this strain is one thing about this new strain in the UK is it's more different than the previous strains than the usual new strain would be. It's got a lot of differences between it, way more differences than the usual mutation would have. Usual new strain would have. So, but yeah, I mean, viruses mutate all the time. It's not likely in a particular case that the mutation will have a significant effect on what happens, but it can happen. Texas Legends Brian says, I have a friend in Los Angeles so scared for her and her grandma who lives with her. Oh, I saw this. Speaking of the virus, I did see this story too I wanted to talk about. This was interesting. Pfizer nears deal with Trump administration to provide more vaccine doses. The company could provide at least tens of millions of additional doses of a virus vaccine. I mean, right now, the estimates I've seen said by the end of March, only about 30% of Americans will have gotten the vaccine. So anything you can do to get more doses out there is great. The Trump administration and Pfizer are close to a deal under which the pharmaceutical company would bolster its supply of virus vaccine for the U.S. by at least tens of millions of doses next year in exchange for a government directive giving it better access to manufacturing supplies. An agreement would help the U.S. at least partly offset a looming vaccine shortage that could leave as many as 110 million adult Americans uncovered in the first half of 2021. So they're saying that in the U.S. right now, given the projections for how much vaccine will be available, even by the end of June, there would still be 110 million adult Americans uncovered. What if they can get more doses out there? What if they, it'd be great if you could have all Americans have access to the vaccine by the end of June. So far, only 2 pharmaceutical companies, Pfizer and Moderna, have won a federal authorization for their vaccines, and most of what they're capable of producing for the next 6 months has been allocated through contracts with the U.S. and other governments. The government is asking for 100 million additional doses, which would cover 50 million additional people, from Pfizer from April through June. The company says it should be able to produce at least 70 million and perhaps more doses, if it can get more access to supplies and raw materials. To help Pfizer, the deal calls for the government to invoke the Defense Production Act to give the company better access to roughly 9 specialized products it needs to make the vaccine. One person familiar with the list said it included lipids, the oily molecules in which the genetic material that is used in both the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines is encased. So I guess the idea would be that the U.S. federal government would make the Defense Production Act, as I understand it, by that the government can order companies and say you need to give this ingredient to Pfizer, right? That's my understanding. So Pfizer is saying we don't have enough ingredients to make more vaccine. And maybe the U.S. government will say, well, we'll get you the ingredients. But they might have to order countries to give them these ingredients, to give Pfizer the ingredients. Order companies, I'm sorry. Defense Production Act. FEMA. The primary source of presidential authorities to expedite and expand the supply of materials and services from the U.S. industrial base need to promote the national defense. DPA authorities may be used to require acceptance and preferential performance of contracts and orders under DPA title, provide financial incentive assistance to industry to expand productive capacity and supply needed for national defense purposes, blah, blah, blah. Military times. What is the Defense Production Act? The act gives the federal government, broad authority to direct private companies to meet the needs of the national defense. The act authorizes the president to require companies to prioritize government contracts and orders seen as necessary for the national defense. It also authorizes the president to use loans, direct purchases, and other incentives to boost the production of critical goods and essential materials. So my understanding is that it could be if Pfizer needs more ingredients to make more vaccine next year, the president could basically order companies. There might be companies out there with those ingredients who are planning to use it on something else. And the Defense Production Act the president could say, no companies, before you produce your own stuff, you need to sell that stuff to Pfizer so they can make vaccine with it. That would be an example. If Pfizer were to provide another 100 million doses through June, that would leave about 60 million eligible Americans uncovered in the first half of the year. Other producers could also cover the shortfall should their vaccines prove successful. Okay, so we'll see what happens with this. Give me a shout. Let me know your thoughts. If you live in the U.S., though, something like this could affect when you get the vaccine. Rob the Slot says, what are we waiting for? Give me a shout at Lookner on Twitter. Let me know your thoughts. Miss Truth Seeker says, wonder how many Americans won't take the vaccine. Dawn says, if it doesn't stop you from getting the virus, why get the shot? Because it would stop you from getting sick. The Moderna and Pfizer vaccines have a great record of keeping people from getting sick. Not perfect record, but a very good record in the trials. Denise Horton says, normality, that's what we're waiting for. WTX Railfan says, the Defense Production Act is basically the government giving contract guarantees to companies in exchange for priority production of whatever is needed. Let's see here. Just checking a couple different things out here. Oh, by the way, I was reading about how there's been, in the UK, because there's been some travel bans, like from France, on people coming from the UK there. And there's worries that with the travel bans involving the UK, there's worries that could affect the UK food supply. So there's been some panic buying at shops. That's what I've been reading. You can see here, this is from The Guardian. Tesco, which is a grocery in the UK, I believe, right? Tesco. Groceries and general merchandise retailer in the UK. Tesco has introduced buying limits on items including toilet paper, eggs, rice, soap, and hand wash. Customers are now limited to 1 item per person of toilet paper and up to 3 products of eggs, rice, soap, and hand wash. It is understood the extra limits are preemptive measures to help smooth demand in the coming weeks, rather than a reaction to shortages or a change in buying behavior. Oh. On Monday, supermarkets and wholesalers warned of shortages of lettuce, broccoli, and citrus fruit around Christmas as thousands of trucks were stranded in Kent after France closed its borders to the UK. But now France, I guess in the UK, we've seen reporting that they're working out an end to that. Tesco previously introduced a buying cap on toilet paper in November in anticipation of a repeat of the panic buying that took place in March, and has encouraged customers to shop as normal. I read stories saying there were long lines at some groceries today there. See, Michelle Sparks says, here we go again. Yeah, see, Britain to begin mass testing truck drivers as France reopens border. That's from The Guardian. Ooh, let's read about South Africa. They have a story about South Africa here. They have their own new strain. Seize the Day says, I love Tesco. But Tesco has nice clothes, LOL. It's like Loblaws in Canada. I haven't been to the UK forever, so let's see if I can find some photos. Like if I put Tesco London in. Tesco Superstore, London, open 24 hours. Let's look at this one, Tesco, photos. Here's a Tesco. Oh, it's like a. They have lots of different products at this one. Grocery and lots of other stuff. That looks lovely. Fahrenheit 451 says, I miss Tesco. Seize the Day says they have great lattes too. Hey, thanks Helen Anderson for these stars. I really appreciate that, Helen. Thanks for the Facebook stars. Much appreciated. Kathy Yoho Tally says Tesco is nice store like a superstore. Maybe she's talking about the specific one I was showing. Duster Singer says, my brother who lives in Utah, 2 states away from me, tested positive for COVID and he's in the hospital. He is doing okay, he says. I hope he does well and recovers quickly. John W. Harvey says Tesco's is like Walmart. Okay, let's look at this. Seize the Day says it's better than Walmart. Pip Flip says, I live near a Tesco. Hang on 1 second here. Let me do this. You are watching Agenda Free TV. If you're on YouTube, you're watching Agenda Free TV 2. We're doing our live news wrap. We're taking your comments on the air. So give me a shout. Let me know your thoughts on the stories. We're covering various stories today, just the big stories out there. Hey, thanks so much to Michelle Sturgeon for your support. Hey, Michelle, that's very kind of you. Michelle Sturgeon, I really appreciate that. Thank you. So there's a new strain in South Africa. Let's read about this. This just came out today. Variant similar to that in UK appears to be causing faster spread than during first wave. This is South Africa, a different new strain. South Africa, says The Guardian, is struggling to contain a second wave of COVID infections, which appear to be driven by a new and more infectious variant of the disease. The new variant in South Africa carries a heavier viral load and appears to be more prevalent among the young. Like I said, We'd already talked about how there's big concern in the UK that the new strain there could be more easily infecting children. Well, that's also a concern in South Africa. Preliminary, the chairman of a government official in South Africa said preliminary data suggest the virus that is now dominating in the second wave is spreading faster than the first wave. Professor Ian San, a member of the government's advisory committee, said the variant in South Africa is not the same as that detected in the UK. There are two different viruses, but they're different variants of the same strain. Dr. Richard Lessels, an expert in South Africa, said it is still unclear how effective existing vaccines would be against the new South Africa variant. Another concern was the possibility of people who'd already had the virus getting the new strain. I haven't heard any reporting. I don't know if they really know anything about that. If you have these new strains in South Africa, in the UK, can you get those even if you've had the virus before? This expert says there are a few more concerns with our variant in South Africa than that in the UK for the vaccine, but we are doing all the careful, methodical work in the lab to answer all the questions, and that takes time. So these are being researched. Right now, the new strain in the UK, new strain in South Africa are being researched to figure out, are they more transmissible? How much? Can kids get it more easily? Is it more harmful to people or not? There's no, with the UK variant, there's no evidence right now that it's more harmful to people. Will the vaccines work on it? Researchers say the South African variant emerged in South Africa. This lineage spread rapidly, becoming within weeks the dominant lineage in Eastern Cape and Western Cape provinces, said a research paper. This lineage may be associated with increased transmissibility. So that's worth watching too. And I don't know if this is going to be if other countries have had that, detected that there, this strain there. Hey, thanks so much, 1981. MLJL83, that's very kind of you. Thanks for your support. 1981 MLJL83, thank you. Marie Whitmore, our viewer, says there are many concerns because there is so much unknown right now. Time will tell. Hopefully we'll start hearing more results of this research on the new strains. Vivian Yurton says, thoughts with all in the world as we fight this pandemic. Rid Comics says, that does not sound good for Africa. Tony Nagy says, my mom is in an old age home in Stellenbosch in South Africa. Tom Nicholson says, can we cover the monoliths? I'm not really covering the copycat monoliths. Maybe I'll look it up, but I get the sense that there's like copycat monoliths now, and I'm not really covering those. Jack Carr stopped by the stream. Thank you, Jack, for watching. Kathy Yoho Tally says, has this been reported from the WHO or just different governments? So the thing is, with these new strains, there really hasn't been much research done on them. It takes time to, once you identify the strain, you have to decide to do specific research on that strain. And, these studies of how transmissible it is or how harmful it is, that takes time. So scientists are going to be doing that now. So there's just not a lot known for sure. Shaggy says the Vermont monolith had to have come from another world. I don't think Shaggy really believes that. Yeah, it's monolith found on Vermont mountain. NBC 5. So I assume it's just a copycat. I mean, it's not very hard to make one of these. Now, it's just you take, if people know what they're doing with metal, you just take 3 pieces of metal.
Captain's log.
See, I did not start this video. I did not start that video. Didn't I mute the site too? Why is that playing? Gosh. Video just automatically plays. Vivian Yurton said Trump issued a series of pardons. Oh, here we go. Trump pardons his convicted early congressional backers Duncan Hunter and Chris Collins. "20 pardons were issued by President Trump. Trump pardons or commutes Papadopoulos and another Mueller probe target, 4 men connected to killing Iraqi civilians and 3 corrupt Republican congressmen." So that just came out. That's just coming out now. I'll give you some more information on this. President Trump has granted a full pardon to former GOP reps Duncan Hunter and Chris Collins. So let's see what this says. Let's read about these pardons. Trump pardons 2 Russia inquiry figures and Blackwater guards. The pre-Christmas wave of 20 pardons and commutations are not likely to be the last before Mr. Trump leaves office. George Papadopoulos served 12 days in jail for lying to the FBI about his contacts with Russian intermediaries during the 2016 presidential race. He was pardoned by the president today. New York Times. In an audacious pre-Christmas round of pardons, President Trump granted clemency on Tuesday to 2 people convicted in the special counsel's Russia inquiry, 4 Blackwater guards convicted in connection with the killing of Iraqi civilians, and 3 corrupt former Republican members of Congress. Among those pardoned was George Papadopoulos, who was a foreign policy advisor to the Trump campaign in 2016 and pleaded guilty in 2017 to making false statements to federal officials as part of the Mueller investigation. Also pardoned was Alex Vanderswan, a lawyer who also pled guilty to making false statements to federal officials. Both men had already served short prison sentences, and they were both out of prison, I believe. Trump recently pardoned Michael Flynn and Roger Stone. He commuted Roger Stone, who had been charged in relation to the Mueller investigation as well. Mr. Trump's pardon list also included 4 former U.S. service members who were convicted of killing Iraqi civilians while working as contractors in 2007. One of them had been sentenced to life in prison after the Justice Department had gone to great lengths to prosecute him. He had been a contractor for the controversial company Blackwater and was sentenced for his role in the killing of 17 Iraqi civilians. The 3 former members of Congress who were pardoned were Duncan Hunter of California, Chris Collins of New York, and Steve Stockman of Texas. Mr. Hunter was set to begin serving an 11-month sentence next month. He pleaded guilty in 2019 to 1 charge of misusing campaign funds, so he won't do any jail time now. Chris Collins of New York, an earlier endorser of Mr. Trump, is currently serving a 26-month sentence after pleading guilty in 2019 to charges of making false statements to the FBI and to conspiring to commit securities fraud. But he has now been pardoned. Steve Stockman was convicted in 2018 on charges of fraud and money laundering and was serving a 10-year sentence, but he has now been pardoned. And Mr. Trump granted full pardons to 2 former Border Patrol agents whose sentences for their roles in the shooting of an alleged drug trafficker had previously been commuted by President Bush. The pardons are not likely to be the last before Mr. Trump leaves office on January 20th. And they will no doubt feed the notion that Mr. Trump has used his pardon power aggressively for personal and political purposes. The founders gave the president the power to serve as the ultimate emergency brake on the criminal police justice system to right the wrongs of those deserving grace and mercy. I wonder why. So is the only reason that he, like Duncan, Hunter, Chris Collins, and Steve Stockman, I'd be interested in hearing his explanation of why he pardoned them. So that's just coming out now. Duncan Hunter was pardoned. Kelsey Pegger says, from our 2018 story, Duncan Hunter and his wife misspent $250,000 in campaign funds on lavish meals, pet airfare, and a trip to Italy, among other things. President Trump has pardoned him. Is there a press release about the pardons that the White House released? Let's see if I can find it. I'll let you know if I do. Here is something right here. I think this is the press release. Phil Mattingly, President Trump has granted a full pardon to former GOP reps Duncan Hunter and Chris Collins. And the Duncan Hunter, at the request of many members of Congress, President Trump granted I don't know if that's true. President Trump granted a full pardon to Duncan Hunter. His pardon is also supported by blah, 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 blah. Mr. Hunter dedicated much of his life to public service. Okay. The White House, I believe this is a White House statement. It says, in 2019, Mr. Hunter pled guilty to 1 count of misusing campaign funds, an offense that could have been handled as a civil case via the Federal Election Commission. He was sentenced to 11 months imprisonment. So I guess they're arguing that it just should not have been handled in court. I can't really speak to that allegation, to speak to that claim. They don't even give a reason here about Chris Collins' pardon. In 2019, Mr. Collins pled guilty to the charges of conspiring to commit securities fraud and making false statements to the FBI. It says, at the request of many members of Congress. I mean, I don't know how many. And whether the requests were just political based. See if I can get you any more about that. I'm sure there'll be more about that. Anyways, that's an update on the pardons. Many expect more to come from the president. Oh, how about this? Miami Beach healthcare mogul Philip S. Formes, who was convicted of bribery, kickback, and money laundering charges, has his term of imprisonment commuted by the president. That's from Steve Herman. Convicted Miami healthcare mogul must pay $44 million to Medicare U.S. government. Philip S. Formes, the Miami Beach healthcare mogul sentenced to 20 years in a massive Medicare fraud case, must pay more than $44 million to a taxpayer-funded program in U.S. government. He has had his sentence commuted by the president. I'm not sure why. It says, while in prison, I believe this is the White House statement, while in prison, he has been devoted to prayer and repentance and is in declining health. They also say former attorneys general, as well as other notable legal figures, have filed in support of his appeal challenging his conviction on the basis of prosecutorial misconduct related to violating attorney-client privilege. I don't know anything about that. I'm not familiar with the case. Yeah, this is the person who is pardoned. Philip S. Formes will now spend years in prison for orchestrating a kickback and money laundering scheme that defrauded America's healthcare system out of millions of dollars. Hang on a second here. So again, it says Miami Beach healthcare mogul Philip S. Formes has his term of imprisonment commuted. A dentist, real estate speculator, and business associate of Ben Carson, who pleaded guilty in federal court to healthcare fraud, Antonio Costa, was granted a full pardon by the president. That's from Steve Herman. Okay, anyways, that's an update on some of the pardons. Yeah, here's a little more on Chris Collins and Duncan Hunter. The White House announces President Trump has pardoned Duncan Hunter, who pleaded guilty to spending more than $150,000 in campaign money on personal expenses, and Chris Collins, who pleaded guilty to insider trading charges and lying to federal investigators. All right, anyways. Thanks for letting me know about the news. That's what Axios says. Trump's pardon spree begins. Hey, thanks for your support, by the way, to Mary Madeko Smith. That's very kind of you, Mary Madeko Smith. Thank you so much, Mary, for your support. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mary. And thank you also to Hetty Silovitz. Hey, thanks, Hetty. Much appreciated. Hetty Silovitz, thank you for your support. Really appreciate that. Thank you. Sorry, I got to read some more comments from you guys. I was just trying to get that news. It was kind of breaking out, so I was trying to get it. Linda says this is a useless article. Yeah, this is not a very big article here. I'm guessing they might add more to this article. It seems pretty short right now, the Axios article. Normally they're not that short. I think that's the article Linda was talking about. Dogs rule, cats drool says, I heard Dr. Birx is quitting. Got caught breaking her own advice. I didn't hear that. I heard Dr. Birx, a story. I read a story that she was planning on retiring but was willing to help out the new administration. Oh, actually, I hadn't seen this. Hold on. There's a different thing. Now, New York Post has. Here's the story about Dr. Birx. Dr. Birx defends report that she traveled, visited family over Thanksgiving. Now, just to be clear, this is Sinclair Broadcast Group, which is very pro-Trump. I'll just have you know that. So I would need to have some more. I'd be interested in some reporting that wasn't from Sinclair Broadcast Group. They say Deborah Birx appeared to be the latest official caught disregarding their own public health guidance. Reports emerged that she spent time with her multi-generational family during Thanksgiving. All right, here. This is Associated Press. That's not Sinclair. AP reported that Birx went to her home in Delaware the day after Thanksgiving, where she spent time with her husband, daughter, son-in-law, and 2 young grandchildren. She described them as members of her immediate household, but acknowledged they lived in separate homes. Okay. Before the holiday, she urged Americans to adapt to the challenges of the virus pandemic and not to travel or visit extended family. She told Sinclair Broadcast Group she had followed recommendations and was careful about limiting her exposure and her family's. She denied mixing households. She said, obviously, I have a very complicated household. She said her daughter and son-in-law, who have 2 young children, had been living with her elderly parents, who started struggling with isolation and depression during the pandemic. Okay. Let's see what the AP story says. Birx travels, family visits highlight pandemic safety perils. Dr. Birx had warned Americans to be vigilant and limit celebrations to your immediate household. That was the advice she gave. For many Americans, that guidance has been difficult to abide, including for Birx herself. The day after Thanksgiving, she traveled to one of her vacation properties in Delaware. She was accompanied by 3 generations of her family from 2 households. So that would be a case if she said limit celebrations to your immediate households, which she's quoted as saying, and she met up with people from 2 households, then she'd be violating her own advice. Okay. Let's see here. If you want to read all about this, you can read the AP article or the Sinclair article, which is in Como News. Certainly, there have been many cases. There have been many cases of prominent people, including politicians in both parties. There have been many cases of them saying one thing and then doing another. So that has certainly happened. Now, I will say this is not Dr. Birx going to like some party at some restaurant with lots of people, not in her family. But at the same time, it does look like she violated her own advice to not, mix with other households. Interesting. Hey, thanks for the tip on the story. Linda thinks it's pure hypocrisy. Yeah, I had seen a story earlier saying she was thinking of retiring. But it wasn't about that. Thank you, Dogs Rule, Cats Drool, for the heads up. Seize the Day said Trudeau got busted, as did Ford, LOL, and many others here in Canada. Willow, Dr. Birx is one of the lead advisors, I don't know what she is right now. She has been one of the lead scientific advisors to the president about the pandemic. Oh, hold on a second. One of our viewers says, sounds like Trump isn't going to sign the COVID relief bill. I don't know if they need him to sign it because they might have enough votes to overcome a veto. But one of our viewers had mentioned that. Thanks for mentioning it. Here, look. Trump throws a big wrench into COVID relief process, asks Congress to amend package, criticizes stimulus checks as too low and says it includes wasteful and unnecessary items. So look, I mean, let me say this. I don't, I believe they have enough to, I think it's 2/3 to override presidential veto. To pass a bill over the president's objections requires a 2/3 vote in each chamber. That's from Senate.gov. And the stimulus bill vote, I think, was more than 2/3. This is NBC. The House passed it 359 to 53, and the Senate passed it 92 to 6. So, unless a lot of people change their votes, they would have enough votes to override his veto. I'm not going to play all 4 minutes of this. I'll play a little bit of it. This is Donald Trump, President Trump. Let's see what he says. I'm not going to play 4 minutes of it.
Democrats cruelly blocked COVID relief legislation in an effort to advance their extreme left-wing agenda.
I'm not playing it. It's already so political. It's already, the first thing he says is political. I'll play a little more, but it's just, I'm not going to listen to this for 4 minutes.
To get urgently needed help to the American people. It's taken forever. However, the bill they are now planning to send back to my desk is much different than anticipated. It really is a disgrace. For example, among the more than 5,000 pages in this bill, which nobody in Congress has read because of its length and complexity, it's called the COVID Relief Bill, but it has almost nothing to do with COVID. This bill contains $85.5 million for assistance to Cambodia, $134 million to Burma, $1.3 billion for Egypt and the Egyptian military, which will go out and buy almost exclusively Russian military equipment. $25 million for democracy, Costa Rica, El Salvador, $1 million for the Smithsonian. These facilities are essentially not open. $7 million in the Gulf of Mexico. A provision to promote the breeding of fish for the family members of illegal aliens, allowing them to get up to $1,000 each in relief payments. And not enough money is given to small businesses, and in particular restaurants, whose owners have suffered so grievously. They were only given a deduction for others to use in business their restaurant for 2 years. This 2-year period.
All right, so look, if you want to watch what he says, you can watch what he says. I don't even know, was he saying this stuff when this was being negotiated? I haven't heard him publicly calling for this stuff over the last couple weeks. He's saying it now that both houses of Congress with both parties have passed the bill. So I'd be interested in knowing, I don't remember him saying any of this stuff publicly. Also, in terms of like the pork in the bill, so I'm not familiar with the bill. I've read that there's some stuff in it that's not related. I'd be interested in knowing, is that really any different than these kind of bills are generally? So I don't know. Maybe it's a normal amount of pork for this kind of bill. I don't know. Again, I haven't heard him publicly. For the last several weeks, he just talks about how the election was stolen all the time. I haven't heard him really talking about this bill much at all. So it's interesting to see him come out all of a sudden and give this 4-minute video about the bill after both houses of Congress and both parties have passed it. So anyways, I don't really know if these are, I would have to look into these criticisms, but, he might just, look, the thing is, he might just figure, like, I don't know that his veto matters. If the bill was passed with less of a margin, would he veto it? I don't even know if he's going to veto it, but if he does, it looks like they'll have enough votes to override the veto. But I don't recall him really being involved in this process publicly at all since the election. Stephen Portnoy says, is the president threatening to veto a COVID bill that took half a year to pass? His video tonight calls on Congress to amend it and send it back to him with more money for working class families. It's not clear if that means he's not going to sign it first. Remember, both parties generally support this bill passed with large margins in Congress. Miss Erlina Egolfopoulou said, I am asking Congress to amend this bill and increase the ridiculously low $600 to $600 checks to $2,000 to $4,000 for a couple. Have the Republicans? I would think the Republicans in Congress would say no to this. Is this something Republican senators are going to want? I would think the Democrats would want that more than the Republicans would. But again, I don't know if it matters because, there was more than 2/3 of both houses of Congress voted for the bill. So even if he vetoes it, if more than 2/3 vote to override his veto, then it's passed. Oh, he also said this. He said, I am asking Congress, let's see if I can find this here.
China's fault, $1,000, and to send me a suitable bill for a cup. I'm up to $2,000 or needed. It wasn't their fault. It was China's fault, not their fault. I am asking Congress to amend this bill and increase the ridiculously low $600 to $2,000 or $4,000 for a couple. I'm also asking Congress to immediately get rid of the wasteful and unnecessary items from this legislation and to send me a suitable bill, or else the next administration will have to deliver a COVID relief package, and maybe that administration will be me.
Why listen to this nonsense? Maybe that administration will be me, which is utter nonsense. So why listen to anything else he's saying? If he's going to make this announcement and say, maybe the next administration will be me, well, that's just garbage. So why would I want to listen to anything else you're saying? All right, well, so much for that. You can go listen to that. It looks to me like it's just political posturing, and that it's easy to sit there after the fact and say, well, you should do this, this, and this, and because who's going to complain? If the president says you should be giving them more money, who's going to complain about that? Well, you know who's going to complain? The Republicans and the Senate are going to complain. But it's easy to sit there, and after that, both houses of Congress and both parties have desperately worked to get this done, and then start taking pot shots at it when you haven't had any public involvement. I don't even know that he had private involvement, because the last month and a half you've been sitting there whining that you won the election when you didn't, and then to just do this big announcement after they've passed the bill. So it just seems like political garbage to me. That's what I take it as. And it's also, I don't know that he might, if there was a chance that maybe he figures, well, they won't override my veto. There might be very low stakes to him doing this. If he figures, well, they're going to override my veto, he might think, well, I can say whatever I want because it's not going to matter. Would he still say that? Would he still threaten this if he thought that it could sink the bill? Does he want to be responsible for them sinking the bill? I don't know that he does. But anyways. Oh, Jamie Dupree says, in his video, the president rattled off a series of spending provisions which he did not like, but those were not part of the COVID agreement. They were in the omnibus government funding portion of the bill. Okay. He doesn't specifically threaten a veto, but he demands that lawmakers revise the bill to increase the direct checks going to Americans. Again, I'll just say, ask the Republicans how they like that. Here, look, right here. The reason why the checks are $600 instead of much more than that is because members of Trump's own party oppose them, and Trump didn't say anything publicly until now. Thank you. Ron Johnson personally blocked Hawley's attempt at $1,200. Retweet. That's from Stephen Dennis. That's just what I've been saying. Doug Rabbit says this plays to his working class base, more money for him in donations. I mean, if he wants to think that, there's an argument to be made that the stimulus is too small. To say nothing publicly and to spend the last month and a half just whining about a stolen election that wasn't stolen and basically abdicate your governmental duties. And then to wait until Congress passes this bill and then you come out with a 4-minute video. Seems ridiculous to me. Castro thinks he's trying to rile up his base. Linda Belk says he has nothing to lose. But again, my guess is that, I'm not seeing a reporting on this, my guess is that Congress has enough votes to override the veto. By the way, Rick Hoppy sent me this. This is Kay Burley, Sky News presenter, right? She said, I have today agreed with Sky News to step back from my broadcasting role for a period of reflection. What's the actual story? Did she hang on a second. Sky News takes COVID presenter Kay Burley off air for 6 months after she breached UK COVID rules. They took their top correspondent or anchor off air for 6 months after she breached the UK's coronavirus rules. She hosted according to reports, says Deadline, she hosted a 60th birthday party during which a group of 10 visited a London members club. A number of a party went on to a restaurant, and later 4 of the group returned to Burley's house for drinks. Where she lives prohibits indoor gatherings unless people live together or are part of the same support bubble. But even then, this is only in groups of 6 or less. Oh, so that tweet was about that. Rick sent me that. This tweet was from a couple weeks ago. Rick sent me this because we were talking about prominent people who violate recommendations about the virus. By the way, going back to the vaccine, Joe Arrow says AstraZeneca to be approved by UK in 6 days. I don't know if that's the case. The Telegraph said that the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine was going to be approved shortly after Christmas. U.S. has a commitment for 300 million doses for Oxford vaccine. Is that true? I haven't read this anywhere. I haven't read anywhere that the U.S. has contracted to buy that much Oxford vaccine. Also, where are you getting U.S. approvals expected in February? I don't know where you're getting that information. But I haven't found, I'd like to see, if anybody has information about how much, whether and how much Oxford vaccine the U.S. has contracted to purchase, I'd be interested in knowing. Hey, thank you, Nicole Fleury from Canada, for your support. I appreciate it, Nicole. Thank you. Misha says, I should be in charge of something. I never break COVID rules, or maybe it's time to break them. She's joking about that, I believe. I want to thank our moderators. They are awesome. Misha and Linda and Texas Legends Brian, Linda Belk, Misha, Texas Legends Brian, and our Periscope chat. Thank you. We have our YouTube moderators, Freckles is there. Thank you. And all of our other YouTube mods I thanked earlier. Thank you for being there. Thank you, Freckles, for being there now. Roxanne Betke in our Facebook chat. Oh, hold on a second. Thanks to our Twitch moderators, too. Oh, hold on a second here. Gretchen Elizabeth mentioned a story about Walmart. I want to look up that story. I didn't read much about that now. I didn't read much about it today. I want to read about that. Why is this pinned? Ian Study Power wrote in and said, Scotland First Minister, another high prominent person to breach COVID rules. She said it was a quick mistake, though, and she has apologized for it already. Nicola Sturgeon broke COVID rules at funeral. Scotland's First Minister has apologized for breaking COVID rules by taking her face mask off at a wake. She was talking to 3 people at a social distance, but with her face uncovered. I mean, is it a huge deal? It's not like she went to a restaurant and had a 30-person party. Anyways, she did apologize for it. Thank you for writing in, Ian Study Power. Tony Del Monte says $600 barely pays for rent for many who are in poor areas. Now, one of the things in the new stimulus bill is rental assistance, but I've been trying to find out some more about that, like what exactly it is and how much of an effect it'll have. Stimulus bill includes $25 billion emergency rental relief, extends eviction moratorium. This is from CNBC. I just don't know, like, how much difference will this make? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. At the beginning of December, around 12.4 million adult renters reported they are behind on their rent payments. Renters will be eligible from relief if their household income is below 80% of the area median income, and someone living there has qualified for unemployment benefits, has lost part of their income, or has experienced financial hardship because of COVID, can show that they are at risk of losing a home. Again, it's just, I would need this amount of, I don't know, it's like, given where people are at with their rental needs, and given, landlords need the money because they're not getting rent from their tenants, and tenants don't have enough to pay to rent, how much money would, like, an economist recommend that is put into that? I don't know. So I don't have a good sense about that figure, whether it's like adequate or inadequate or low or good or what. So I'd be interested in reading more about that. Hey, thanks, Hanyel Vargas, who says, season's greetings to you and yours. Happy holidays, Hanyel Vargas. Thank you for your support. Thank you. And also, thank you so much, Maria Brouillard, who likes the format where we can cover multiple stories. Thank you for the feedback and your support, Maria. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Your support is what keeps this channel, all my channels, on the air. So I really appreciate your support. Thank you. If you do want to donate to the channel, you can go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv. Starfire says the unemployment gets extended plus 300 a week. Good news. Salon Girl says, just trying to hold on to my business, struggling. Stephen Murray says, don't think what the Scottish First Minister did was a huge deal, but still not good. WTX Railfan thinks the only reason GOP is agreeing to any stimulus payments now is to try and influence the Georgia Senate races. By the way, we'll do election coverage on, it's either, I think, the 5th or 6th, whenever that is, the Senate election runoffs in Georgia. We'll do election coverage for that. That'll be on Agenda Free TV. Christopher Lund thinks Donald Trump just checkmated McConnell. I'll be interested to see what McConnell's response to President Trump is. Yeah, Misha says, I know people who survive off their tenants. They are getting shafted too. It's sad for all. Yeah, it stinks. I think I read an article, I think it might have been The Economist, but the suggestion about, I read an article somewhere, I think it was an article, that suggested, maybe, oh no, I think it was, we read it on there, it was a Vox article, and it suggested that the best way to deal with the, with what's going on with renters and landlords, where the renters can't afford the rent and the landlords, aren't getting the rent payments, so they're short money that they need, would be to give renters money to pay the landlords. Because then that helps the renters and the landlords. The renters get to pay their rent and the landlords get the money. Now, I guess there is going to be rental relief here, so. But I don't have a good sense about whether $25 billion, how much of a dent does that make? Yeah, Katie, we spent a bunch of time talking about the pardons earlier. Thank you. We talked about that earlier when it came out. Miss Truth Seeker says, I'll donate my $600. Oh, by the way, so I didn't realize this. So we talked about the pardons earlier. Adam Classfield said Chris Collins and Duncan Hunter, who both got pardons today, were the first 2 congressmen to endorse him. I don't know if that played a role in the pardons. Oh, here's an update about what Trump said from Axios with some analysis here. Trump asked Congress to increase stimulus payments. President Trump said in a video he won't sign the coronavirus relief bill and government funding measure passed by Congress as it stands. The surprise announcement could delay desperately needed aid for millions of Americans if Trump decides to not sign the package as it stands. It also risks a government shutdown. How about them overriding the veto? Can't that happen? He's calling on lawmakers to increase the, quote, ridiculously low amount Americans receive for COVID relief and get rid of wasteful and unnecessary items in the spending bill. Many of the items he listed, such as foreign aid, which were not related to COVID, are not part of the COVID relief package. These form part of the government funding bill, which was passed alongside the COVID relief package. Oh, thank you, Mischief. Mischief, or Mischief? Maybe Mischief. Mischief says, thanks for the news wrap coverage. Hey, thanks, Mischief. That's very kind of you. I really appreciate your support. Thank you. I've been reading these articles. Why is nobody saying anything about the veto? Isn't the big thing with when President Trump says that he might not sign the bill, isn't the big thing, well, can't they just override the veto? I haven't seen any analysis of that. Now, I guess the problem is, so as I mentioned, both houses of Congress passed the stimulus bill by a large margin. So this is NBC News, 359 to 53 in the House, and the Senate 92 to 6. You need a 2/3 vote to override a presidential veto in both houses. Now, I guess the question would be, if President Trump vetoes the bill, will there be like Trump supporting Congress people who originally voted for the bill but then won't override the veto? That would be the question. Because if everybody voted for it, still votes to override the veto, they'll have enough to override the veto. You need 2/3 in each House of Congress. But will there be people who voted for it who don't want to go against President Trump? I don't know. Jake Ahazred says, Congress going to stay in D.C. for the next 10 days to override the veto? We don't know if he's going to veto it. We have no idea. Dark Sarcasm thinks that Trump is pandering for future support. So doesn't think he's like serious about submarining the bill. Oh, this just happened. Trump goes after his own party's Senate whip, predicting he'll be primaried and lose. 3 minutes ago, that's from Josh Wingrove. Republicans in the Senate so quickly forget right now they would be down 8 seats without my backing them in the last election. Rhino John Thune, Mitch's boy, should just let it play out. South Dakota doesn't like weakness. He will be primaried in 2022. Political career over. President Trump just posted that on Twitter. I don't know what is he talking about, like the electors stuff? I don't even know what he's referring to here. I don't know the context of this. Oh, but this is important, though. I mean, in terms of even if they override President Trump's veto, as Rebecca Bauhaus points out, suppose President Trump won't sign the bill, right? Even if Congress ultimately overrides President Trump's veto, it could greatly delay. The bill won't be passed. Like, both houses of Congress could pass that bill. So President Trump could sign it right now, and then the money starts flowing. No money starts flowing until the bill is passed. So I guess my assumption is it could take a while. If President Trump says, I'm not going to sign it, right? Then either they'll have to change the bill and vote on the changed bill, or they would have to, both houses of Congress would have to vote to override the veto. And even if they do, that would take time. So it will delay the bill. Even if it doesn't even if it doesn't do away with the bill, it'll delay the money going up. She says upending the plan for payments to go out next week. Hawaiian Flamingo says another way to create chaos. I Hear Cricket says COVID is even in Antarctica now. I did see that today. CNN, COVID is now in every continent as Antarctica records its first outbreak. Antarctica recorded its first COVID case after 36 people tested positive on a research base, according to a statement released by the Chilean army. Jackie Zion thinks President Trump is just trying to delay. Elizabeth G. says, when is the government shutdown deadline? Good. That's a good question. Because the spending bill, they passed a spending bill, but that has not been signed by the president. So he did sign in a week-long funding extension to buy time to prep omnibus. This is from Roll Call, and this was yesterday. There was a 7-day stopgap funding measure. I don't know when this 7 days runs out. Oh, till next Monday, I guess. The most recent stopgap was set to run dry midnight Monday. So I guess next Monday is when the government would shut down without a spending bill. Another spending bill. Passed. Linda says, did Trump pardon Julian Assange? No, he has not done that. He has not done that yet. Hey, thank you, Duster Singer, for your support. Hey, thanks so much, Duster Singer. I really appreciate that. Thank you. That's very nice of you. Ian says BBC showed a small protest in Dover earlier today due to poor facilities, etc. Let's hope the testing deal between UK and France will help get the port of Dover open and freight moving soon. Faiz al-Islam said, my colleague witnessed a few dozen lorry truck drivers sounding horns and marching up to police in protest at the delays and lack of equipment facilities. Truck drivers stuck because they have not reopened the border yet between France and the UK. But it's supposed to reopen soon, from the reporting we've heard. Their lack of food facilities. I guess these truck drivers are stuck there and there's nowhere for them to get food. Thank you, Ian, for writing it. Joe Arrow sent me this. It's a Daily Mail article which says the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine is a vaccine that one of the other possible vaccines, but has not been approved in the U.S. And it says in this article that AstraZeneca has a deal with the U.S. for 150 million doses. But when could they produce? So if that's true, when could they produce it by? It says the firm would likely have little trouble meeting that goal in terms of sheer production. But when? When would they be ready? I don't know that those would be ready. I don't know. It says nothing here about when those would be delivered. This article says the AstraZeneca could ask FDA to approve its vaccine as early as February. We'll see what happens with AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine. The more vaccines, the better. Thank you, Joe, for sending in the article. You are watching the live news wrap. We've been talking about some different stories. We're taking your comments on the year. You can write to me on Twitter at Lookner. Been covering some breaking news. Linda says Texas Governor Abbott got his vaccine today. Elizabeth says, wasn't the deal that the companies would begin producing vaccine before they were approved? The problem is that just because you have an agreement to buy a certain amount of vaccine from a company doesn't mean it's all ready. There's only so much they can produce. So, we've seen this with like the Moderna vaccine. I think the U.S. has an agreement to buy way more of the Moderna vaccine than that's ready right now. So I don't know with the Oxford vaccine how much they've sold to various countries and what their production schedule would be. I have not heard reporting. Maybe they'll change. I have not heard reporting saying, we expect the U.S. to approve the Oxford vaccine in February and then have all these doses here in the spring. Now, maybe that'll happen. I just haven't heard that reporting. Now, there's some evidence, there's some questions about the evidence for the efficacy of the Oxford vaccine. There's some evidence out there suggesting it works maybe better than the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. But there's also reporting, the Telegraph is saying they think that the UK will approve it in like a couple days after Christmas. So we'll have to see what happens there. Thanks, by the way, to Denise Horton, who says loves the news format. Hey, thanks, Denise, from Canada. Appreciate your support. Thank you. Eric Chrisman says, Merry Christmas to Steve and all the mods. Merry Christmas to you as well. I know the UK, they're counting on having the Oxford vaccine as like their big vaccine there, supposedly, from what I read. So I don't know how much Oxford AstraZeneca has made commitments to sell to different countries. Captain Malding thinks a mask and social distance would have a higher efficacy than the Oxford vaccine. Well, the good thing would be to have the vaccines and the people doing the masks and social distancing. Shaggy says only 70% effective. Give that one to Canada. Ooh, look. Here's something. Ooh, no. BBC. I thought they might say something about the Oxford vaccine, like approval here. I was looking for an update on that. This is from the Telegraph. This is from today. They think that the Oxford vaccine will be approved within days of Christmas, December 28th or 29th, in the UK. And the Telegraph is reporting a massive drive to vaccinate will follow the Oxford vaccine approval in the UK, using football stadia among other sites to administer the jabs. We'll see if that actually happens. Megan Mills says, what is Agenda Free TV 2? It's a second channel on YouTube for some stories that are maybe a little less known, a little less well-known, or different kinds of coverage than AFTV. So if you want to have a full explanation, so there's Agenda Free TV 2. On all the other platforms, it's one channel. On this platform, it's two channels. But what you can do, if you want an explanation, go to Agenda Free TV and look up this video. Introducing Agenda Free TV 2 second channel, more coverage. You'll see an explanation of it there. I'm actually cold in my studio. It's amazing with these amazing lights that Chris Lund donated to the studio. Thank you again, Chris. Amazing. They don't get hot. It's incredible. I actually get cold in my studio. That never used to happen, ever. I have to turn down the AC right now. I'm doing it on my phone. I'm literally turning the AC down. Well, I mean up, if I can find the app. Where'd it go? Where's my app? There it is. It's like too cold. Done. Roger asked about Kilauea. Wow, we've been on for a while. I didn't even realize that. Lava continues to fill a growing pond associated within the Halemaumau crater, fed by two fissures. Gas emissions and seismic activity remain elevated. No activity outside of the crater has been observed. Same thing going on with the volcano as before. Doesn't sound like much has changed. This is what's happening. The Killaway Volcano, that's what's happening. There's two fissures in the side of this crater, and lava is coming out and going and forming a lava lake. That's what's going on. It sounds like it's status quo. We did a bunch of coverage on this yesterday. If you want to know more about the eruption, one of the most active volcanoes in the world, but it had not erupted for 2 years. It erupted a couple days ago. But it's not a risk right now to the surrounding area. It's not a risk to any houses or anything. It's the lava is going into the crater. It's coming out at the side of the crater and going into the crater. Tony says, how about news roundabout? Well, the thing is, changing Roundup didn't solve the issue. I think the issue... There's an issue where I thought that the word Roundup was causing YouTube to... What happens is YouTube, if their automated system detects content they think might not be advertiser friendly, they won't put ads on your broadcast until a human reviews it. And with these broadcasts, what always happens is it'll get flagged, and then afterwards a human will look at it and they'll say, oh, this is fine, and they'll let ads run on it. But that doesn't help me at all because most people watch it live. So I thought what was happening is that the word Roundup was triggering the Autobot, but I tried Wrap and it did the exact same thing. What I think it is that this is a relatively new channel. I have a feeling if I did this exact same stream and called it News Wrap or News Roundup on Agenda Free TV, since that's an established channel, my guess would be that they would allow ads to be on it because the system is more familiar with the channel. This is a pretty new channel, so my guess is like they don't trust the channel as much. That's my guess. That's my guess. So. There's no, but it sounds like it's not the word Roundup. Hey, Ibby Dibby likes the format. Thank you, Ibby Dibby. I want to cover like one or two more stories here, but hang on. I'm going to cover a couple more stories, but give me 1 minute. I need to take a 1 minute break. I'll be right back and we'll do a couple more stories. All right, we're back. I wanted to talk about this Walmart story real quick because I hadn't even had time to read it. Walmart and the opioids. Oops, hang on one second here. Too many things open on the desktop. Justice Department accuses Walmart of fueling opioid crisis. Hey, thanks to the mods, by the way. Freckles, Mark Helton, there in the YouTube chat. Sarah Joy, Danny James. Thank you, thank you. Also, Periscope, Linda Belk, Misha. They're both there. Thank you for modding there. Roxanne Betke has been moderating in our Facebook chat. Thank you. And thanks to our Twitch moderators as well. By the way, Jeff Curry, our viewer, had said, is Oxford vaccine better than the others? So right now, the Moderna and Pfizer, the evidence suggests that they're more than 90% effective at preventing people from getting sick. The data on Oxford isn't as good as that. So no, the answer would be no. And by the way, if you want to know, so I should mention there's a Discord for people who like this channel and my other channels. There's a Discord where fans of the channels can talk with each other about whatever. Also, if you sign up for the Discord, you get the best notifications, the most reliable notifications when I'm going on the air on any of my channels. So check out the Discord. The link to the Discord I know is at the bottom of the YouTube video description. And the mods can post the Discord link as well. And I need to update the message about the Discord that I post because it's not just about notifications anymore. Let me just do this real quick. I'll have to do that later. Here, I'll post it here. Captain Malding says, it's snowing here. Okay. Justice Department accuses Walmart of fueling opioid crisis. Civil complaint alleges the retailer knew its system for detecting illegitimate prescriptions was inadequate. The Justice Department sued Walmart on Tuesday for what it said was the company's role in fueling the nation's opioid crisis by allowing its network of pharmacies to fill millions of prescriptions for opioids, thousands of which authorities said were suspicious. The complaint alleges that Walmart knew its system for detecting questionable prescriptions was inadequate and details numerous instances when employees warned federal authorities and company managers about suspicious prescriptions. The lawsuit is a significant escalation in the government's effort to hold major pharmacy chains responsible for their role in the opioid crisis. Maybe there'll be a settlement at some point. I don't know. Anyways, if you want to read more about that, go to New York Times. There's also articles in other publications as well. Arizona Jumper likes the new format and likes it in agenda-free TV too. That's what Arizona Jumper says. Yeah, Molly, the lights that Chris Lund donated, they're LED lights. It's great, so they don't get hot. It's amazing. It's unbelievable. It's such a change, and they're better lights. Caesar Day says it's all the MDs that got people hooked. Well, I mean, there's also, you can see here it says much of the litigation around opioid addiction is focused on doctors and distributors. There's all kinds of legal stuff involving the opioid crisis. This is just one thing. Rascally Rabbit says opioids are now, and this is, I think this is not about what's going on now. This is about what happened before, years ago. Rascally Rabbit says opioids are regulated well here in Canada. The forms me and the doctor have to sign are incredible. ACL, we talked about President Trump saying he wasn't on board with the COVID bill, but we don't know if he's going to veto it. And if he does, Congress may have enough votes to override it. So we'll have to see what happens with that. I don't even know if he will veto it. You can rewind a little earlier. We talked about it when his video came out. Crystal Hayes says, multiple congressional sources have texted stunned messages over Trump's 11th hour complaints about the bill. A reminder, Congress has spent months upon months trying to pass more relief. They finally did it, and now the future of the bill is in the air. Also, Crystal Hayes says that the White House said he would sign it. But now he's saying he doesn't support it. That's from Crystal Hayes. I think she's with USA Today. Yes. Oh, U.S. COVID update. 189,000 new cases. 3,166 new deaths. Hospitalization numbers continue to go up in the U.S. Look. On hospital, 117,000, up by 2,400. ICU numbers go up. 189,000 new cases. That's from B&O Newsroom. Oh, so we were wondering before why President Trump sent out a tweet attacking the number 3 Republican Senator John Thune. And I was wondering, why is he doing that? And Phil Mattingly said, if you want to know why President Trump is lashing out at Senator Thune, and Senator Thune said yesterday basically that he was not on board. He doesn't think the Senate should try to challenge the state election results. He said, it's not going anywhere. I mean, in the Senate, it would go down like a shot dog. I don't think it makes a lot of sense to put everybody through this when you know what the ultimate outcome is going to be. So that might be why President Trump was mad at Senator Thune. Just following up, because we were wondering about that earlier. Ooh, here's something about pocket veto. One of our viewers mentioned pocket veto. Chad Pergram from Fox says, the president did not outright say he will veto the bill, but the coronavirus government spending bill, but he very well could prevent it from being a law via a pocket veto. Pocket vetoes are very rare. Congress has to be in the proper parliamentary posture for this possibility to be in play, but we could very well be in those circumstances now. Under Article 1, Section 7 of the Constitution, the president has 10 days, Sundays excluded, to either sign or veto a bill. Keep in mind, because of the massive nature of the combo bill, the bill has not even been enrolled yet and sent to the president. Here's where the pocket veto comes into play. The latest the congressional session can end is 11:59 a.m. on January 3rd. That is the drop-dead time for the 116th Congress. The session of Congress has to be over by that time on January 3rd. A president may in effect veto a bill by keeping it in his pocket and not signing it if it comes too close to the end of a congressional adjournment. Congress must adjourn, sign a die, leaving without a return date no later than 11:59 p.m. on January 3rd. In other words, Congress would have to get the president the bill by December 23rd to prevent a pocket veto, because then he would have to veto it or sign it by January 3rd. Otherwise, the president could run out the clock on the congressional session, effectively blocking any potential override attempt. Oh. The president would have to send it back to Capitol Hill with a veto. If he failed to do so in the 10 days, then the bill would automatically become law. Wait, what is this? The president would have to send it back to Capitol Hill with a veto. Now I'm a little confused. So he's saying, could they, I guess what my question is this. So Congress has passed the bill in both houses, but the president needs to sign it for it to become law. So if the president just says, I'm not going to sign the bill, the sessions of Congress last 2 years, right? And this Congress session is going to be over. So if President Trump just says, like, I'm not going to sign the bill, and the session of Congress ends, then does the next Congress is a new Congress. So they'd have to pass the bill again. Does that make sense? I believe the Congress, there's a new Congress every 2 years. This Congress both houses of this Congress has passed this bill. But this Congress ends at 11:59 p.m. in 11:59 on January 3rd. So once this Congress ends, then if the president doesn't sign the bill, I guess the next Congress can't override a veto because it's a new Congress. They would have to pass the bill from scratch again, I think. If I'm understanding this correctly. I'm going to retweet this. Where did I get this from? This is a must-read thread, said Rodney Whitlock. Jan Harker says it must be on his desk tomorrow. Because if it's on his desk by tomorrow, he only has 10 days that he can sit there and do nothing about it. And if it's on his desk by tomorrow, then the 10 days will run out before the end of Congress. If it's not on his desk tomorrow, then he can sit there and do nothing for 9 days or whatever, and then Congress just ends. And then a new Congress gets seated like, a month later or whatever. Mark Helton thinks I'm correct. Well, I'm going off of what I read here. Anyways, I retweeted this if you want to read the thread by Chad Pergram. I was forgetting. What I was thinking is like, oh, well, if he vetoes it, they can override the veto. But if he just doesn't act on it and Congress ends, and this session of Congress ends, then the session of Congress is over. That's it. Then the new Congress would have to pass a new bill, I think. The F1ZZ says, I don't like Trump, but I absolutely agree with him on this one. The bill is pathetic and a slap in the face to all the citizens of the United States. But the thing is, he hasn't been involved with it at all. And the White House said he'd sign it. He's been not involved in the process. He hasn't publicly said anything about it the last couple of months. And they said he'd sign it. So if you have complaints about it, then the time to kind of give them is before they pass the bill, after the White House has said you'd sign it. Now it's just messing everything up. Anyways, that's interesting. Oh, HMB sent me this. COVID tracking project posted their update. 1.7 million tests, 189,000 new cases, 3131 deaths. They said California is now reporting so many cases that it has kept the country on a case plateau, even as the Midwest declines bring the rest of the country's cases down. But this view masked the seriousness of the situation in the three largest southern states. Hospitalizations are rapidly rising in Texas, Florida, and Georgia. Something to keep an eye on from COVID Tracking Project. Okay, look, I think we're getting close to that time to end this stream. I think I'm going to wrap up this stream. All right, I think it's time. We may have a stream later tonight. Maybe I'll do one on my personal channel. Depends on what the news is. I have a personal channel called Lookner on YouTube, Lookner. You can follow me there. I sometimes do non-news streams there. So subscribe to that channel. And this channel, well, if you're on YouTube, it's Agenda Free TV 2. If you're on the other platforms, it's all just Agenda Free TV. But subscribe to all the channels, Agenda Free TV, Lookner, and also this is one on YouTube, Agenda Free TV 2. So, but we'll do more news wrap streams. Maybe we'll try it on Agenda Free TV 1 at some point, see how that goes. But I do really appreciate you watching the broadcast. Thank you for joining. And thanks for all your help covering the news stories. A lot of you have been sending me comments, letting me read your comments on the air, sending me links. So thank you for that. Yeah, we'll keep doing more coverage. Hey, thanks also to everybody who donated. That's really kind of you. And that is how I can do this. So I appreciate your support. I appreciate your donations during the news roundup streams. As I mentioned before, I do enjoy doing this. I do enjoy doing this format. So if I can pay the bills while doing that, I will certainly continue doing it. But I appreciate your support, and that includes the people on YouTube, on Periscope. Well, YouTube obviously, but also Periscope. Misha Lee Garside, Daniel Heaton. Thanks for the super hearts there. Thanks for the Facebook stars. Amy Canfield. Hey, thanks, Amy Canfield. Much appreciated. Helen Anderson, Star Fowler, and Laverne Thompson. Thank you. And big thanks to the moderators. Hey, let's hear it for the mods. They are all volunteers. Oh, I should say, but first, if you do want to donate to the channel, you can go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv. That being said, hey, thanks to the moderators. They're all volunteers. They're amazing. Give them a round of applause. They keep the chats troll-free. So big thanks to the moderators. Mark Helton, Freckles, Danny James, and all the other moderators who've been in and out there. We've had a lot today. Awesome. Linda Belk, Misha, in our Periscope chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Texas Legends Brian there earlier. Roxanne Becky has been in our Facebook chat moderating. Thank you, Roxanne. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And our Twitch mods, too. Thanks to all of them. If anybody has interest in being a volunteer moderator, we can always use more mods. The mods can give you information on where to write to about that. But that would be great. But thank you all the moderators. They are awesome. Oh, thank you, Sonic. Sonic says, thank you for the myriad of topics. Well, thanks for your support, Sonic. Very much appreciated. Thank you. All right. And I'm thinking, I will see. I've heard some different opinions on, some people want it to stay on agenda-free TV too. But I think there's a bunch of people who don't even know. There's a lot of people who don't even know about this channel. I did my best to let people know, but I don't know if it was my best. Well, within reason, but I know there's a lot of people who don't realize we're doing this. So that would be a reason to do it on agenda-free. A reason to do it on agenda-free TV 1. Hey, thanks for watching. J. Jacob Design likes the new format. Thanks, Jacob Design, for watching. Teresme. Plano. ACL. Thank you, Mama Jerry. Thanks, everybody watching in Periscope. Much appreciated. Also on Twitch. Fiddy, thanks for watching. One True Tree. Jack Carr. I guess it's Glowfly's birthday. 11 Glowfly, happy birthday. Apocalypse No. Arctic Mule. Shamai Mudin. Thank you for watching. Apocalypse No. I think I said that already. Shaggy. Captain Malding. Toby is the worst. Toby says, how long has Steve been on? Toby, if you didn't know when we're on the air, best thing to do, Discord. Sign up for the Discord. The Discord is a chat room thing where people who like my channels go and chat. But also, just by signing up, it's free. You get the best notifications for when I'm coming on the air. The Discord link is at the bottom of the YouTube video description, and the mods can also post the link in the chat rooms. That's the best way to get the notifications. If you have the Discord app on your phone, the notifications pop up on your phone. Also, Agenda Free TV on Twitter. I post whenever we're going on the air for Agenda Free TV or Agenda Free TV 2. I post it on Twitter at Agenda Free TV, so you can get notifications that way too. All right. Thanks, Eddie Rux, and everybody else watching in Twitch. Thanks to our Facebook viewers. Christian Montoya, Duster Singer. Nicolette Geese says Twitch is good for notifications. Duster says, I'm on Facebook. Oh, Duster, what I meant was the Facebook stars. When I was saying people on Facebook, when I was talking about the donation, you were donating through the other way of donating. So thank you, Duster Singer. I was just mentioning the people who gave Facebook stars. So thank you, Duster Singer. Much appreciated. And thanks for watching. Mary Incel, thanks for watching. Gretchen Elizabeth. Ron Dorland, thanks for watching. John Williams, and our other Jay Allen, and our other Facebook viewers, and our YouTube viewers as well. David loves the Discord. Now chat is open, but I am too shy to chat. Maybe one day. You got to work your way up to it, David. It's okay. If you just want to lurk, that's fine too. Thank you, David Blade, Tony Nagy, Jennifer Ferry, Beth Standard, Happy Life, Willow, Rascally Rabbit, Don Pratt, Miss Truth Seeker, thanks for watching, Madison G, Sebi, Sparky's Code, Gone with the Gale, Rascally Rabbit says, you have to stream more on this channel to be noticed. Denise Horton says it's our little secret. Tammy thinks this format would be good on AFTV. I can't tell. There might be people who subscribe to AFTV saying, I didn't sign up for this. Thanks, Love Thunderstorms. Salon Girl, Miss Truth Seeker. Joe Williams. Strange Reverend, Arizona Jumper. Thank you guys all for really interesting comments on the news and questions. And thanks for alerting me to breaking news stories. Thanks for your help. Castro, H. Cobb, Canadian Sunset. April Coco, Cheryl Simpson, Vivian Yurton, thanks for watching. All right, guys, and Jeff Ha, and Kimberly Barr, and Paula Faust. Okay, guys, it's time to wrap it up. But thank you for joining this edition of News Wrap, also News Roundup. Today it was News Wrap. All right, guys, follow me on Twitter for breaking news, at Lookner on Twitter. That's where I post breaking news stories. And subscribe, Agenda Free TV 2 if you're on YouTube, and Agenda Free TV on all the platforms so you know when we're covering breaking news. And if you subscribe on YouTube to any of my channels, make sure you click the notifications bell. There's a bell there. Click the bell and choose all notifications. And that's it for now. All right, guys, thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. Thank you for participating. Thanks to the lurkers, too. All the lurkers out there who weren't in the chat, who are just hanging out. Thank you for watching, too. And our mods and the donors. Thank you so much. All right, that's it for now. Thanks, guys, for watching the News Wrap. We'll see you soon with more live coverage right here at Agenda Free TV and Agenda Free TV 2.